Imagine this. A single, tiny point on the world map gets blocked. And just like that, the entire global economy spirals into chaos. It sounds like a movie plot, right? But what if, out of that very chaos, one nation saw a massive opportunity? An opportunity to build a brand new trade route, not on the sea, but on land. Well, that's exactly what we're diving in today. We're looking at how Egypt is building a bypass that could literally remap global trade as we know it.
So, to really get why Egypt's plan is such a game changer, we first have to look a little bit east, to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this isn't just any strip of water. It is one of the most critical maritime choke points on the entire planet. A truly staggering amount of the world's oil and gas has to squeeze through this narrow passage every single day.
Okay, so let's ask the big what-if question. What would actually happen if the Strait of Hormuz just shut down? The domino effect would be insane. It would hit global energy markets almost instantly, sending shockwaves across the entire world. Now, you might be thinking the US or Europe would be the ones to suffer most, but you'd be wrong. The first and hardest hit would actually be Asia's industrial powerhouses. We're talking about countries like China, Japan, India, and South Korea. They depend so heavily on the Strait of Hormuz for their energy, and a blockage would make their economies incredibly vulnerable, practically overnight.
But here's where things get really interesting. You see, a crisis like this, it doesn't create losers all around, not at all. In fact, for a select few, a massive disruption to the world's energy supply is, believe it or not, an incredible business opportunity.
So, who exactly stands to gain when the world's most important oil faucet gets turned off and prices go through the roof? Well, the answer might not be who you think. In a scenario like this, two groups are perfectly positioned to make a fortune. First up, the United States. As the world's biggest producer of oil and gas, it can step in to fill that supply gap. And second, you guessed it, the huge Western energy companies. Giants like ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Shell would watch their profits explode as global energy prices spike. Simply put, chaos in the Gulf can be very, very good for their bottom line.
But hold on, the plot thickens. The Gulf nations themselves? They're not just sitting around waiting for a crisis. Oh no. They have been preparing for this exact scenario for decades, quietly building a whole network of strategic bypasses.
They've built these massive pipelines that are basically overland superhighways for oil. You've got the Abu Dhabi Fujairah pipeline, which lets the UAE send its oil straight to the Gulf of Oman, completely avoiding Hormuz. And then there's Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline, which is even more strategic. It carries oil all the way across the desert to the Red Sea, bypassing not one, but two choke points, Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. And that brings us right to Egypt, and to this key piece of the puzzle, the Sumed pipeline. This thing has been around since the 70s, acting as this vital link that takes Gulf oil from the Red Sea across Egypt and straight to the Mediterranean. It's a really powerful tool for sure, but as we're about to see, it was just a taste of what Egypt was planning. Okay, so this is where the story really kicks into high gear. Egypt is taking its unique geography, that bridge between continents, and thinking way bigger than just oil. It's in the process of building a massive, continental-scale logistics hub, a true land bridge connecting two seas. And they are not messing around. The plan involves creating 7, that's right, 7, brand new, fully integrated logistical corridors that will stretch across the entire country. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar vision here. This isn't just a new road or a railway line. This is a total reimagining of how goods move between East and West. So what in the world is a logistical corridor? Well, think of them as these super efficient networks designed to connect Egypt's production centers, its farms, its mines, its factories, directly to its major seaports. For instance, they'll link the fertile agricultural lands in the Nile Delta straight to Mediterranean ports for easy export to Europe. And they'll connect the mineral-rich mining areas in the desert to Red Sea ports for shipping to Asia. And the engine driving all of this? A brand new high-speed electric rail network that's going to create a seamless flow of goods. The concept itself is beautifully simple. Picture this. A massive container ship pulls into a port on the Mediterranean, say Alexandria. Its cargo gets unloaded and placed directly onto a high-speed electric train. That train then zips across the country to a port on the Red Sea, like Ain Sokhna. There, the cargo is reloaded onto another ship to continue its journey toward Asia. Simple, right? So, what's the big deal? Well, it all comes down to saving time and money. A lot of it.
When you compare it to sailing all the way around Africa, which is the main alternative if the Suez Canal is blocked or just too congested, this new land bridge can cut travel time by a mind-blowing 10 to 12 days. That's a huge deal, translating into massive savings on fuel, insurance, and all sorts of other operational costs.
Of course, a project this huge, this ambitious, needs two things: a ton of capital and some very powerful partners. And it turns out Egypt has found a very, very enthusiastic backer in the European Union. The EU sees this project as a massive strategic win, not just for trade, but for its own economic and energy security. Which, of course, leads to the big question: where's all the money coming from? I mean, transforming an entire nation's infrastructure is going to cost billions upon billions, and Egypt is getting a huge chunk of that funding through a landmark partnership with Europe.
The headline number here is just massive. We're talking about a new strategic partnership that aims to pull in up to 5 billion euros in European investments. And listen, this isn't just some loan. It's a full-on, comprehensive investment package designed to co-develop the most important sectors of Egypt's modern economy. And this isn't just about building bridges and railroads. It's a strategic bet on Egypt's entire future. The money is being targeted at these key high-growth areas like renewable energy, digital tech, and advanced manufacturing. The whole goal is to help build a resilient, sustainable Egyptian economy that is deeply, deeply integrated with Europe's.
Let's look at a few real-world examples, because this stuff is already happening. There's the Gregi electrical interconnector, which will literally link the power grids of Egypt and Greece. That's a huge boost for Europe's energy security. At the same time, Europe is pouring money into making Egypt a green hydrogen and green ammonia powerhouse, and they've already signed contracts to start supplying Germany as soon as 2027.
So when you start to put all of these different pieces together, you've got the strategic pipelines, the new logistical corridors, and this massive European investment, the conclusion is pretty darn clear. What we are witnessing is nothing less than a fundamental redrawing of the global trade map. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from the official EU-Egypt declaration pretty much says it all. This partnership goes way beyond economics. It's geopolitical. Europe sees Egypt as a fundamental pillar for stability in a pretty volatile part of the world, and this investment is meant to lock in that stability for decades.
And this is the most important thing to understand. These new corridors, they aren't just a plan B for when the Suez Canal or the Strait of Hormuz get blocked. No way. They are being built from the ground up to be a faster, cheaper, and more reliable, permanent alternative that's going to reshape how goods flow between Europe and Asia forever.
All of which leaves us with one final and pretty fascinating question to think about. With this incredible network of high-speed rail and integrated ports, is Egypt basically building a 21st century version of the Suez Canal, but this time building it on land? The implications, if they pull it off, are absolutely world-changing.